For decades, the world has seen India in a certain way: poor, crowded, and chaotic.
Welcome to India.
The Western media still shows India as a backward country which is only famous for slums, for traffics, and poverty. But if you look at what's happening today, that picture doesn't hold up anymore.
India has just taken a major leap in its nuclear energy journey.
History has been made as India successfully lands a spacecraft on the moon's surface.
A few months ago, India turned on a new nuclear reactor. It generates 700 megawatts of clean power, which is enough to light up a city of 500,000 people. Only a few countries can achieve this. But what's more interesting is that 10 more reactors like this are already under construction. And that's just one piece of a much larger story. All across the country, India is building at a scale we have never seen before. Energy, technology, defense, space, infrastructure. At first glance, they seem like separate projects. But when you look carefully, you see something much bigger being built. So in this video, we are going to look at the 10 mega projects that are shaping the transformation of India to be a superpower. Section 1. Semiconductors. Over the last decade, India has become a major manufacturing hub. We assemble smartphones, laptops, and electronics for global brands. But the most critical part, the semiconductor chip, still comes from abroad. Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, and China dominates the global chip supply. India builds the final product, but not the brain that powers it. So semiconductor manufacturing is extremely difficult. You need billion-dollar fabs that run 24/7 in near-perfect conditions. Precision matters at the atomic level. That's why 75% of the global chip production is concentrated in East Asia, with Taiwan making the most advanced chips and China controlling much of the raw material supply. India so far has relied on imports. We spend $24 billion each year on chips. And when supply chain breaks, like during COVID, factories halt. No chips means no production.
General Motors, one of the world's largest automakers, said it could lose up to $2 billion because the semiconductor chip shortage.
In February 2024, India approved 3 major semiconductor projects. Tata Group, in partnership with Taiwan's Power Chip, is building the country's first chip fabrication plant in Dholera, Gujarat, with an investment of 91,000 crore and a capacity of 50,000 wafers per month. Micron is investing $825 million to build an assembly and testing unit in Sanand, while CG Power, along with Renesas and Stars, is setting up a 7,600 crore packaging facility capable of producing 15 million chips every day. Since then, 4 more projects have been cleared across 6 states with total investments nearing 1.6 lakh crore. All of this falls under the India Semiconductor Mission, launched with 76,000 crore budget. Alongside infrastructure, the focus is on chip design, R&D, and training. Over 60,000 engineers have already been trained, creating the workforce to support these new facilities. India's chip market is expected to touch $100 billion by 2030, driven by demand in defense, EVs, and electronics. And with silicon carbide chips and compound semiconductors in focus, the country is skipping a generation to build for the future. The first Made in India chips are expected by 2026. More than just manufacturing, this is a strategic pivot. As global companies diversify away from China, India is positioning itself as the trusted alternative. But before a single chip can be made, one more challenge needs to be solved: energy. Section 2. Nuclear expansion. Now, semiconductor factories are huge power users. A single fab needs between 100 and 150 megawatts of steady electricity, enough to supply a city of about 100,000 homes. And if the power flickers for even a second, a whole batch of chips can be ruined, causing millions in losses. That is why companies like TSMC insist on a completely reliable grid before they build. And Taiwan's grid was literally designed around that need. The company alone uses about 9% of the nation's total power. China too has built extra capacity, so its industries never have to worry about blackouts. India's grid, however, has not always been that stable. In summer, load shedding and voltage drops are still common in industrial areas, or any areas really. So the country is basically solving this problem by going big on nuclear energy. In March 2025, a 700 megawatt reactor in Rajasthan was connected to the grid. In April, contracts were awarded for 2 more reactors in Kaiga. And by September, the Prime Minister laid the foundation stone for 4 reactors at Mahi Banswara. Altogether, 10 Indian-made pressurized heavy water reactors are under construction at the same time, each producing 700 megawatts of clean power. India's national nuclear target is 100 gigawatts by 2047. Our current capacity is about 8 gigawatts. For comparison, the United States has around 96 gigawatts, though most of its reactors were built in 1970s. China is at 68 gigawatts and plan to reach 200 by 2035. But the real question is, why does this matter? Now, nuclear energy runs day and night through heat waves, storms, and fuel crises. It does not depend on sun or wind. It cannot be blocked by an oil embargo or shipping disruption. It gives India a base layer of power that nothing else can match. This is what makes large-scale manufacturing and especially chip production possible. Stable energy means stable growth, and when you have both technology and power in place, the next thing you need is capital. And for decades, much of India's capital sat abroad, but the next project aims to bring it home. Section 3. Gift City. For years, a lot of Indian startups and investment firms choose to register abroad, in places like Singapore, Dubai, and Mauritius. It wasn't because they didn't believe in India. It was because those countries made it very easy to do business. Singapore's corporate tax rate is about 17%. Dubai offers tax-free zones. And Mauritius became a preferred route for global investors because of its tax treaties with India. In comparison, India's financial system felt slow, complex, and full of red tape. That's the gap Gift City was built to close. GIFT stands for Gujarat International Finance Tech City. It's India's first international financial service center, a planned city designed to bring global finance in India. Spread across 886 acres between Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar, it has modern office towers, residential complexes, and a fully digital infrastructure. What is setting it apart are its rules. Companies in GIFT City get a 10-year tax holiday. They don't pay GST inside the zone. They can settle transaction in US dollars in real time within seconds. By the end of 2024, over 720 entities had already registered there, including foreign and Indian banks, fintech companies, insurance firms, and investment funds. The IFSCA, which regulates the zone, is also building systems for bullion trading, aircraft leasing, and global fund management. So the goal is very simple. Bring Indian money back to India, and it's working. Large assets managers are setting up base here. Foreign banks are opening units. Even the NSE and BSE have trading operations for global investors. But GIFT City is more than just one financial hub. It's a prototype. So if it succeeds, India can replicate this model in other cities, specialized zones for manufacturing, logistics, or technology, each built with global standard from the start. But finance is one part of the power, technology is another. Section 4. ISRO Mission. In August 2023, India made history by landing on the moon. Only 3 countries had ever done it before. And just a few months later, in January 2024, India's first solar observatory went online. Aditya L1 studies the sun from a point 1.5 million kilometers away. And now the next big mission is Gaganyaan, India's first human spaceflight program. ISRO had already tested the escape system for the crew capsule. The unmanned mission are planned before the end of 2025, and the first flight carrying Indian astronaut is expected soon after. If successful, India will become the 4th country ever to send humans into space on its own. But ISRO's ambition don't stop there. The agency is also preparing to build an Indian space station by 2035. So you see a permanent platform in the orbit that can host research, satellite maintenance, and long duration missions. This isn't just about science. Space capability changes how a country sees, communicates, and defends itself. Every modern military depends on satellite for navigation, communication, and surveillance. Without them, you lose sight of what's happening beyond your borders. And that's why India's progress in space matters so much. It strengthens national security, supports industries that rely on satellite data, and builds confidence that India can handle high-risk, high-tech projects on its own. And all of this has been achieved on a fraction of what other countries spend. But to be a true power, India also needs strength at sea to protect trade routes, supply lines, and the vast waters that connect it to the world. And that's where the next chapter comes in. Section 5, Blue Water Navy. So if you look at the world map, India sits right at the center of the Indian Ocean. And that ocean is one of the busiest trade routes on Earth. Almost 80% of the world's oil trade passes through it. Those same waters carry India's energy imports, and they also carry China's. So controlling these routes means controlling the flow of global trade. And to do that, you need a blue water navy. A navy that can operate far from home across oceans for months at a time. So most countries only have coastal navies. They defend ports and nearby waters. But blue water navies can actually travel thousands of kilometers to protect trade lanes and project power anywhere in the world. And only a few nations have this capability: the United States, China, Russia, the United Kingdom, France, and now India. In September 2022, India commissioned its first indigenous aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant. It was designed and built entirely in India, weighing around 45,000 tons. An aircraft carrier is more than just a ship. It's a floating airbase. It allows India to launch fighter jets and helicopters from middle of the ocean without needing anyone's permission or territory. With the INS Vikrant and INS Vikramaditya both operational, India now joins a very small group of countries that can actually run dual carrier operations. In January 2025, the Navy commissioned 3 new warships on the same day: a destroyer, a frigate, and a submarine, all built in India. This shows how quickly India's naval production capacity is growing. And the next phase is even bigger. Negotiations are underway for 6 advanced submarines under P-75 program, while plans are also moving forward for additional Scorpion-class boats. The long-term target is to build a fleet of about 200 warships by 2035. And why does this matter? Because sea power decides who keeps trade routes open and who can close them when needed. India's position gives it a natural advantage. Any ship moving from the Middle East to East Asia has to pass near Indian waters. This allows India to secure its own supply lines and, if ever necessary, to disrupt an enemy's. Space gives India eyes, the Navy gives it reach, and the next project adds something else: a new way to connect continents through trade. Section 6, IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe Corridor. China has spent the last decade building the world's largest infrastructure network, the Belt and the Road Initiative. It connects ports, railways, and highways across Asia, Africa, and Europe. Over 150 countries are involved, and China has poured trillions of dollars into it. But one part of that network runs straight through Gilgit-Baltistan territory that India claims as its own. And that route is called the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC. And because of it, India refused to join the Belt and Road project. That decision, however, came with a cost. Almost every overland route from India to Central Asia or Europe passes through Pakistan. For decades, that meant India had no direct land connection to the West. Then in September 2023, something changed. At the G20 summit in New Delhi, world leaders announced the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor, or IMEC. IMEC is a mix of railways, ports, and shipping routes that link India to Europe through the Middle East. Like goods will travel from Indian ports to the UAE by sea, then move by rail through Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel, and finally reach Europe by the ship. And along this path, the plan also includes fiber optic cables for data, hydrogen pipelines for clean fuel, and digital networks for faster communication. If completed, IMEC could cut transport time and cost between India and Europe by 30 to 40% compared to the Suez Canal route. And for the first time, India could have a trade corridor to Europe that doesn't rely on Pakistan. Of course, the project is still in its early stages. Diplomatic talks and financing discussions are ongoing, and political tensions in the region have slowed things down. But even so, IMEC matters because it gives India and its partners, including Saudi Arabia, UAE, Israel, and the European Union, a shared vision for a new trade network. It also provides the world with an alternative to China's Belt and Road model, one that focuses on transparency and collaboration instead of debt and control. It also strengthens India's role in the Middle East. It deepens its partnership with Europe and connects 3 major regions that together account for over half of the world's economy. And that brings us to the next big project, India's first bullet train. Section 7. Bullet train. For years, people said India could never build a bullet train, saying it's too complicated, too expensive, too ambitious. The Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project was announced years ago, and from the beginning, critics doubted it would ever be completed. But step by step, that picture has started to change. By September 2025, more than 323 kilometers of viaducts and 399 kilometers of piers were already built out of a total corridor length of 508 kilometers. At Sabarmati, the main station structure is complete and the interiors are underway. And the first stretch in Gujarat is expected to open around 2027 and the full line could be ready by 2028. This project is being built using Japanese Shinkansen technology, the same system that made Japanese bullet trains famous for their speed and reliability. The bullet train is a proof that India can actually handle complex, high-precision engineering projects on time and at a global standard. And once operational, this corridor will do more than move people faster. It will link two major industrial hubs, create thousands of jobs, and boost tourism and trade along the route. But fast passenger trains are only one part of the story. The real foundation of any industrial economy lies in how quickly it can actually move goods, not just people. And that's what the next project is all about. Section 8. Dedicated freight corridors. Every developed country has one thing in common: efficient logistics. The faster raw material reach factories and finished good reach ports, the stronger the economy becomes. For a long time, India struggled with this. Our freight trains shared the same track as the passenger trains. That meant delays, congestion, and higher cost. Trucks filled the gap, but highways become overcrowded and slow. And that gap is finally narrowing with the dedicated freight corridors, one on the eastern side and one on the western side. These are the rail lines built only for cargoes, designed to move goods at high speed without waiting for passenger trains. By March 2025, India had completed 2,741 kilometers out of the total 2,843 kilometers network. The last 102 kilometer stretch connecting the Western Corridor to the JNPT port near Mumbai is expected to be finished by the end of 2025. Once both corridors are fully operational, they will completely change how goods move across the country. Trains that once crawled at 25 kilometers an hour will now move at 70 to 100. Transit time from Delhi to Mumbai will drop by almost half, and this is just the beginning. Dedicated freight lines means faster exports, cheaper transport, and more reliable supply chain. They also free up existing rail tracks for passenger trains, making overall travel smoother for everyone. Beyond that, these corridors create a ripple effect. Industrial parks, logistics hubs, and manufacturing clusters are already growing along the routes. And while these tracks transform the ground, India is already preparing for the technologies that will define the future, ones that can't be seen but will shape everything ahead. That's where the quantum mission comes in. Section 9. National Quantum Mission. Every few decades, a new technology changes how the world works. In the 20th century, it was electricity, then computers, and then internet. In the 21st century, the next revolution is quantum technology, and India wants to be ready for it. Quantum computers don't work like normal computers. They use quantum bits or qubits, which can exist in multiple states at once. That means they can perform complex calculation that even today's supercomputers would take thousands of years to finish. And this power can change everything from how we develop new medicines to how we secure our data. And that's why countries like the US and China are spending billions to master it first. Whoever leads quantum computing will control the future of cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and scientific research. India launched its own national quantum mission to make sure that it's a part of the race. And the mission has a budget of about 6,000 crores spread over 8 years. It has 4 thematic hubs at IISc Bengaluru, IIT Madras, IIT Bombay, and IIT Delhi. Together, they bring 152 researchers from 43 institutions, all working on quantum computing, communications, sensing, and materials. The goal is to build secure quantum networks, advanced sensors, and even India's own quantum computers. This is about building independence in technologies that will soon be critical for defense, for finance, and for health. Right now, India might still be early in the quantum race, but it's building the right foundation. the people, the labs, and the ecosystem needed to compete at the highest level possible. And while this project explores the smallest building blocks of the universe, India is also preparing to explore something just as vast, the deep ocean. That's where the next mission takes us. Section 10, Samundrayaan. About 6 kilometers below the surface of the ocean lies a world that is still unexplored. The seabed there is covered with small, round rocks called polymetallic nodules. These nodules are rich in cobalt, nickel, copper, and rare earth elements, materials used in electric vehicles, solar panels, wind turbines, and modern electronics. At present, most of these minerals come from land-based mines, and China controls a majority of the market. It produces about 60% of the world's rare earth supply. That's why several countries are now developing the technology to reach the ocean depths. The United States, Russia, Japan, and China already operate submersibles capable of exploring the deep sea. And now India is joining the group through its Samundrayaan program, part of the Deep Ocean Mission. Samundrayaan aims to send a manned submersible called Matsya 6000 to a depth of 6,000 meters. Early in 2025, the Ministry of Earth Science confirmed that wet tests were completed successfully. The next goal is to conduct a 500-meter sea trial before the end of the year. The submersible's personal sphere, designed to keep 3 people safe under immense pressure, was co-developed with engineers from ISRO. The same precision that India applies to space technology is now being used under the ocean. Once operational, this mission will allow India to explore the central Indian Ocean basin for critical minerals and conduct advanced research in marine science. Only a few nations have the ability to operate at these depths. When India achieves it, it will not only gain access to valuable resources but also join a very small club of countries which are capable of deep sea exploration. Samundrayaan shows how India is expanding its scientific reach from space above the ocean to now flow below, using its own expertise and its own technology and its own ambition. Superpowers are not built in a day. They are built step by step through decisions that add up over time. For decades, the world saw India through the lens of slow growth and endless delays. That view is now changing. The country is building faster, thinking bigger, and executing projects that once seemed out of reach. Nuclear power is securing the energy supply. Semiconductor fabs are shaping a new technology industry. GIFT City is attracting global finance. ISRO is expanding India's reach into space. The Navy is protecting trade routes across the ocean. The bullet train and freight corridors are transforming how people and goods move. The quantum mission is preparing India for the next era of computing, and Samundrayaan is opening the door to the last great frontier on Earth. Each project has a different goal, but together they tell one story. A story of a country that has stopped waiting for change and started building it. This is the new India, and it's already under construction.